Kelly, thank you so much for your time to talk about the No More Page 3 campaign.
You're welcome.
So you're currently filming for a new series of Mr. Selfridge. Very exciting. So it's based in 1918 and this is about 100 years ago, and we obviously never had any sexualised images of women or men in newspapers in those days. So now we have Page 3. Is this a step forward for society?
Well, it's crazy from doing research into 1918, which I had no idea about, and looking into women. Basically, they just wanted to get married. That was their birthright. That's what they wanted to do. That was their main goal in life. Not as a weak thing, but just that's what they desperately needed to do. They weren't equipped to do anything else. They'd kind of get a job in the meantime if they had to, but as a view to quickly hurry up and getting married. As soon as they'd get married, they'd be like, thank God, I don't have to work anymore. Just get married, and that's the end of that. And I was reading it just going, it's so backward, I can't believe, thank goodness we're not like this anymore. Women could only be teachers or maybe nurses, or, you know, they can't be anything else. Thinking that's so backward, but they would never have had bare boobs in their national newspapers, ever. And I don't understand how from then till now, we've kind of, I don't know if it's got worse, it kind of feels like that would be, I mean, that would be absolutely unacceptable in society then, but now it's perfectly fine.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of supporters of the campaign would say that they have nothing against glamour modelling, but it's the accessibility and how easy it is to get hold of, which is the issue for the Sun. So would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, there's totally a place for, it's not sort of condemning beauty. I mean, the beauty industry and everything is a completely different tangent, but they're all kind of linked. But it's just the accessibility of being able to go into your normal shop, or kids on the way home from school going in to buy their sweets or whatever on the way home from school, and being able to see that, and it being a quite confusing message to young lads and to young girls and to, you know, younger children, just thinking, what is that okay, is that a normal acceptable thing? And it's very odd that it's just right there.
And on the lower shelf as well, so anyone of any age can buy it, and
totally,
it's a bit of a worry. So have you personally ever felt any media pressure to strip off, or to sort of go down that way to carry on your career?
Yeah, well, even at the very beginning of my career, when I was 24, I got my first job in Holby City, and I played a gay midwife. Not an issue, never thought anything of it. The press department then, and this is not condemning BBC in any way, but the press department sort of said, oh, we'll send you on the rounds. And we thought, oh yeah, this is amazing, we'll get to do, my friend and I started at the same time, and we thought we'll get to do all these amazing magazine shoots. It's the first time on TV, you think, oh, this is it, I've made it, I'm going to do brilliant interviews. And they sent us on The Sun, I think it was Nuts, Zoo. I mean, magazines are a different thing completely, those sort of glamour magazines, it's a different issue. But The Star, all those kind of things, and I specifically remember going on The Sun. I'm going to demonstrate it.
Thank you for sharing
I'm going to name and shame my own self from 10 years ago. Looking horrific and incredibly uncomfortable, and not in any way sexy, because I'm so going, I'm not sure about this. And my friends look at our hands, and the photographer telling us to hold our hands. Can you just put your hand on her leg? I mean, it's all every shade of wrong.
But how uncomfortable did you feel during that shoot? Do you remember?
Well, yeah, I remember, first of all, the makeup artist coming in and basically emptying her handbag onto the shelf, and it just rifling through some old makeup and bits of old mascara and bits of powder, and I was going, is that the makeup you're going to use today? And it was just low grade, awful, like, get it on, slap the makeup on them, like spray it with all her own lipstick and everything. She'd just be like, put it on you, and it was just sort of the worst sort of photo shoot you could ever do.
Gosh, so just through the mill, sort of.
Just through awful. It really was like, this is not that glamorous. But I take full responsibility for it. I'm not sort of saying that the dangerous thing about that was being 24, even though I'm perfectly old enough to make my own decisions, and I knew that it was a bit of a bad thing to be doing, but I couldn't resist knowing that there would be people hopefully fancying me, looking at me, getting loads of male attention, you know, women would be jealous, men would fancy me. I couldn't like help the attention that I was going to get, and I kind of really secretly wanted it. And it took for my agent to phone me, who was an older woman, and she said, I think I've just opened a paper and I've seen you on it, and she said, you are not to do those again. You do not ever need to do those. You're an actor, you're nothing. And I was like, okay. It really embarrassed me, and I'd never do anything like that now.
That must have been a huge relief though, because I guess at that age, you know, you're sort of being put on those rounds to do these kind of shoots, and you think something might follow from it, like different kinds of PR.
Yeah.
So for somebody to say, whoa, actually, you don't need to do carry on doing this, must be quite refreshing.
It was. It took it out of my hands, and I went, oh yeah, okay. I just sort of had a little word with myself. But I mean, we weren't glamour. We were actors. So we're not proper glamour models, though. I'm sure from reading from the website, of horrible sort of situations of having to line up and just everyone get their boobs out and people picking and sending you home. It wasn't that. But it was still, you know, you just don't need to. I'm embarrassed. I'm glad I've kept that because it's like a bit of a reminder from 10 years on of just going, no.
And you can pass that advice onto sort of younger women who are thinking about possibly doing that at the moment. I mean, what would you say to your 24-year-old self if you were back then?
Well, I think it's just, what needs to happen is a little bit of a shift in respect, a little bit from the guys that are, I'll answer your question probably, but from the guys that are buying it, they just sort of need to go, look, would I like to see my daughter doing that, my wife, my mum, how can I separate these women from the ones that I go to work with, and how can, you know, you need to kind of just respect women a little bit more, and then women need to have a little word of themselves like I had to, and just go, you don't need that attention that way. It's far better to do it through your words and your actions rather than just taking your top off. Anyone can take your top off. You're born with boobs. You don't have to do anything special to do that. So I would have a word with myself and just be sort of like, you know, resist the temptation. And it's quite hard in a society where beauty sort of rules out and you get all your attention, your praise from being a model or a beautiful actress or something like that. It's quite hard to resist it. So it's sort of bypass it and try and do something a little bit more, I don't know what the right word is, but yeah, just sort of, you don't have to take your top off.
I think it's very lovely advice, and especially seeing as you felt that pressure before and you're on the other side of having to put yourself through that pressure, you found other ways to, you know, sort of put yourself out there. That doesn't mean that you need to sort of compromise yourself in that way. So I think it's hugely inspirational. So we've got a little poem on the go, which you might know about. So we've had all of our interviewees so far sort of contribute to it, and we're basically sending this poem dedicated to David Dinsmore to sort of try and convince him to change things around. So this is how it goes so far, and we've had it contributed to from Lucy Holmes, of course, the founder of the campaign, Kate Smurthwaite, Caroline Quentin, and we've had Gemma Chan as well, and now it's your turn. Mm-hmm. So I will stop reading it out soon because it's getting quite long, so this might be the final time and then I'll put it in the description underneath. But this is how it goes so far. On a partially cloudy day in 1970, the men at the Sun were wondering what to put on page 3. We don't know the details, but we can assume that there weren't many women on the team in the room. I've got an idea, said an old hack named Pete as he stubbed out his fag and leapt to his feet. To sell more papers, a surefire way is to show a young lass in her pants every day. So what would you like to add?
I would say, so it started with side boob in soft black and white, then on to Lusardi, all perky and tight.
I like it. Slightly comic there, which is what we need to get people talking about this campaign.
It's good looking back on those old photos, you're like, oh, the fashions, well, what they're barely wearing.
Bless you so much. So Kelly, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you enough, and I'm sure this interview will make a lot of difference as well. Thank you.